is.
Welcome, everyone. We'll just wait one more minute here till we get till 7 o'clock, and then I'll start the meeting. Just a reminder to our guests and to our counselors and to staff that we are live streaming tonight. We have been recording since the pandemic began, and we started distancing ourselves, but this will be our first experience with live streaming. So if you're ever going to misbehave, tonight's the night.
The rest of behave. Yeah. God.
Right, 7 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. As a result of the declaration of emergency issued by the Municipality of McDougall for the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the requirements for social distancing, this committee council meeting will be held electronically in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001. I would ask that the clerk now take a roll call to determine quorum and advise who is participating in the meeting today. Mrs. West.
Mayor Robinson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Constable,
Present.
Councillor Gregory,
Present.
Councillor Malott,
Present.
Councillor Ryman.
Present.
It is determined that we do have quorum to proceed with this meeting. I will now take attendance of staff to advise who's joining us today. Tim Hunt, CAO.
Present.
Chief Ledoux.
Present.
Aaron Robinson, Treasurer.
Present.
Kim Dixon, Building Official.
Present.
Nick Thompson, Public Works Manager.
Present.
Steve Goman, Environmental Services Supervisor.
Present.
Myself, Lori West Clerk.
Thank you. Reminder to council that movers and seconders for all motions have been assigned. If when the motion is read, you would prefer not to move or second a particular motion, please advise me at that point in time. I now call this McDougall Council meeting to order. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Prioritization of the agenda. No changes for tonight. Item 4, adoption of minutes. Moved by Councillor Malott, seconded by Councillor Constable, that the minutes of the committee council meeting held on September 16th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Deputations. We have one tonight from Derek D'Angelo and Andrew Bryanton from KPMG regarding the draft financial statement for 2019. I'll put the resolution on the table and then we'll receive the deputation as part of information. Moved by Councillor Ryman, second by Councillor Gregory, that Council of the Corporation of Municipality of McDougall does hereby receive the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019, and the audit findings report to the members of council for the year ended December 31st, 2019, as presented at the regular meeting of council on October 7th, 2020 by the firm KPMG. Under discussion, we'll start first of all with the deputation tonight. Welcome, gentlemen.
We're unable to hear you, Mr. D'Angelo.
Is that any better?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing us to attend the council meeting and present the draft financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019. I'm going to put them up for you. All right. So looking at the financial statements, first thing we talk about is the auditor's report. The auditor's report is our summary of our audit procedures, management's responsibility, and our audit opinion. So for the year ended December 31st, 2019, we've given an unqualified or a clean audit opinion for the Municipality of McDougall. And that is the highest level of assurance that can be given under Canadian audit standards. Assuming the financial statements are approved tonight, the financial statements will be dated October 7th, 2020. Going to review the financial statements at a high level, and looking at the statement of financial position at December 31st, 2019, with the comparative balances for 2018. The statement of financial position is a summary of the financial assets, financial liabilities, net non-financial assets, and the accumulated surplus. So looking at the financial assets, at December 31st, 2019, there was cash of $3,097,000, up from $2.7 million in 2018. User charges receivable were consistent at around $102,000. Taxes receivable are up from 2018 at $522,000. The reason for the increase is there was just lower collection amounts during the year. And on the next slide, you'll see a little more detail of that. As you can see here, this gives an aging of the taxes receivable. And really where the big difference is in the 1-year-old receivables. In 2018, that amount was $106,000. This year is $140,000. So that really is the biggest piece of those increase. As a percentage of levy, you can see it is rather consistent though at 8.7%, and it's this year's 9.5%. Comparative to other municipalities your size, in the current year, we're seeing anywhere from 8 to 20% as a percentage of levy for taxes receivable. So definitely in the range and on the lower end of the range for what we're seeing currently. Looking at the accounts receivable are down around $77,000 from the prior year. Main reason is there was a large receivable last year for OCIF that was outstanding at year end. And this year is up as HST recoverable was up by around $88,000 this year. And our water capital debenture is down around $33,000 as collections were made on the debenture from the debentures during the year. So total financial assets have increased from $3.99 million to $4.32 million. Looking at the financial liabilities, accounts payable and accrued liabilities, they have decreased from $750,000 to $702,000. A lot of that was just due to the fact there were some accruals and holdbacks for construction in 2018 that were not present in 2019. Otherwise, the composition of your accounts payable and accrued liabilities was consistent year on year. The accrued landfill closure costs have increased from $402,000 up to $763,000. There's a $360,000 change, mainly related to the rates involved in calculating the estimated accrual for those closure costs. Deferred revenue on reserve funds, again, minor change from year on year, around $19,000. Nothing unusual or significant. And long-term debt, you can see has decreased as the payments were made on the outstanding debt during the year. So total financial liabilities decreased by $91,000 to just over $3.6 million. That left us with net financial assets for the year of $726,000, up from $300,000 in 2018. Looking at the non-financial assets, we can see that your tangible capital assets make up the bulk of your assets in general at $43.4 million. I have a little bit more information on the next slide, which will go in a little more detail of the additions for the year. And prepaid expenses are similar at around $27,000. One new note this year is the subsequent event note, and that note just deals with COVID-19. And it just indicates that due to the pandemic that was declared by the World Health Organization, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and sometimes it's difficult to measure and value assets that maybe have some impairment in value. But that management has made their assessment, and at this point, no adjustments are required to be made. So as mentioned about the tangible capital assets, there's around $1.5 million of new additions this year. This highlights the main pieces of those additions: 2 Freightliners, the parking lot at George Hunt, Pine Ridge Drive Culvert, Nobel Water System, Big Ben's Road, Peninsula Shores, and other miscellaneous amounts. Looking at the statement of operations and accumulated surplus, this is a summary of the revenues and expenses for the year. Again, I'm just going to go through this on a high level. As you can see, your taxation revenues were up from $4.15 million to $4.32 million. The taxation base itself was up around 2.7%, and the tax rate also went up 0.5% from 2018, and that would create that increase in taxation revenue. Fees and user charges were consistent at $1.76 million. Government grants are down from 2018. Last year, there was a large grant for Lorimor Lake Road. That was around $1.1 million. This year, there was a grant for Peninsula Shores, around $151,000, as well as a modernization grant for $534,000. Investment income is consistent at around $63,000. Other income is again consistent with budget at $87,000. And there was a loss on the disposal of some tangible capital assets. So total revenues are down slightly from last year at $8.18 million, but they are ahead of budget. Looking at the expenses, again, the expenses are, as we go through, you'll see they're very consistent to 2018 and consistent with budget. The main pieces here that I'd like to bring to your attention is that transportation was increased from $2.36 million to $2.47 million. There's an increase in winter road sanding. That was around $73,000 increase in cost in 2019. And amortization on the roads was up around $36,000. As well, environmental services, we can see that's increased from $1.56 million up to $1.97 million. And as mentioned, our environmental landfill accrual was up around $320,000, and that flows through directly into that line item. Recreation is also up slightly by around $70,000. A major piece of that was there were some minor lighting repairs done of around $40,000. All the other expense categories are very consistent to the prior year and consistent with budget. So what does that mean? We had an annual surplus this year of $248,000. That compares to last year's surplus of $877,000, and also compares with the budget of $312,000. And that left us with an ending annual surplus of $44.2 million. Now, how is that accumulated surplus? What is that comprised of? We can see that it's consisting of $41.4 million of tangible capital assets, around $4.6 million in reserves, and around $763,000 in unfunded liabilities. We can see that the reserves by themselves are up around $500,000, over $500,000, and the main piece being that modernization grant that was received. Looking at the statement of change in net financial assets, we have our annual surplus of $248,000. And as mentioned, you purchased around $1.5 million of new tangible capital assets. There is the amortization of those assets of $1.61 million, along with the activities for some sale of assets and a change in the prepaid expenses. So our change in our net financial assets was $425,000. And that we add that to our opening balance of $300,000, and we end the year at $725,000. Just looking at or speaking about the audit and specifically, our audit is complete and we are only have two things to do to sign off on this year. One, and that's to receive council's approval of the financial statements and to receive the signed management representation letter, which is usually done after the financial statements are approved. During the course of our audit, we encountered no significant difficulties. We had to make no changes to our initial audit plan, and we had no disagreements or difficulties with management. Even during this COVID time, management and the audit team, I believe, worked really well together to get the audit done in the most efficient and effective manner possible. We also had no unadjusted audit differences above our posting threshold, and we noted no significant internal control weaknesses. I usually bring some comparative analysis to council to give you a sense on some of your comparators. If you would like, I will go through those with you. And if you would like if you don't want me to, you can just let me know and I can pause here.
Yeah, no, I think we'd like to see that, but just at this point, I'll just ask council or staff if anyone have any questions in terms of the audit as it was presented up to this point in time. Any comments? No? Straightforward? Good. Okay, guess we can go ahead with comparative analysis then, Mr. D'Angelo.
Thank you very much. As we've done in the past, we look at municipalities that would have a similar criteria to that McDougall would have. So these are some of the comparative municipalities that we would use with and list the number of households. Again, they're single tier in Northern Ontario with a similar number of households and perhaps also have a high percentage of seasonal residents. So looking at the residential taxation per household, the first two columns are relate to McDougall specifically. The purple, the first column, which is a purple color, is the 2019 balance, and the next column beside it, the McDougall prior year, is obviously 2018. So as you can see, so residential taxation per household, was slightly up in 2019, as I mentioned on the revenue for taxation revenue. But as you can see, per household, you're actually on the low end from your comparative municipalities.
By household, you mean permanent resident?
Yes.
Perfect. That's the lowest.
Looking at the taxes receivable, again, this is, we're using, and I have to say that the comparatives for the other municipalities would be, in some situations, their prior year as well, because we wouldn't have access to, in some cases, the 2019 information. But it just gives you a sense on where you are in relation to your comparators. So as mentioned, your taxes receivable are slightly up. But again, very, very much, you can see where you are in relation to that, slightly above, but then also significantly below some other ones. The debt per household, again, you can see where you are. Debt per household is lower this year than the prior year, and definitely would be on the lower end of your comparators. The reserves per household, you can see that your reserves did go up this year. There are some municipalities that have higher reserves per household than you would have. But also there's some that are, majority actually have reserves that are lower than yours. Looking at the general government cost per household, this is just in a sense the measurement of the efficiency. Really, as I mentioned, your expenses were really comparable to prior year and budgets. So there's almost no change from the prior year on your own numbers. And as you can see that you're again at the bottom or really at the bottom compared to all the other municipalities. Some are much higher than you on a general government cost per household. Protection costs, again, a similar story. You're on the lower end of all the costs. Recreation and culture costs, again, similar story. And those are the ones I have for this year. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the financial statements and those measures.
Okay, thank you. It's like a good audit that went well, once again. And I'm sure there were some trying times in terms of operating in a pandemic, in terms of getting information. So I was happy to see that it still went smoothly in terms of support from our staff and interaction with your staff, which was good. Any questions from council? Comments? Seeing none, then I have the resolution on the table. Any further discussion on the resolution?
I'm just gonna, I guess we can see everybody. Now you can see them all.
All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Mr. D'Angelo.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Usually I tell you a safe trip home, but that's not the case tonight.
Is it good now?
Yeah. Matters arising, deputations. So the letter of acceptance, that's comes to the next council meeting.
I didn't prepare, I can prepare that at the end of this evening and have you sign it if you'd like.
Oh, it doesn't matter, just one of the two things he said we had to do to make it complete. Planning and building, no report, any matters arising?
Nothing, your worship.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dixon. Bylaw enforcement, no report, any matters arising?
Nothing, your worship.
Thank you, Mr. Leduc. Item 8, fire protection, report of the fire chief, 2020-8 operations update. Mr. Leduc.
Thank you, your worship. So as of the writing of this report, which is over a week ago, so some things has changed in the province with regard to the spread and the daily infection numbers for COVID-19. So we'll take that into account as I go through the report. So with regard to our training, before at the writing, there was going to be no changes to our current practices. We were still going to stay in small group trainings Monday and Tuesday evenings until the end of the year. Due to the infection rates, I think I'm going to be adjusting that in the near future when I get back to my office next week. So I will be reviewing things and probably implementing some more restrictions. In the last month, we've also completed our opioid overdose recognition and naloxone administration training with North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit. 22 firefighters and officers have completed that training. Our program is now operational. So the members were issued a new operational guideline, OG 1207, naloxone procedures, to guide them on their work procedures as we move forward. Under operations, our opioid overdose intervention procedures are now operational. Each main fleet truck is equipped with 2 naloxone kits for use by the crew on a recognized drug overdose scene. There has been no additional cost for the new service implementation. All of the training was completed on regular training nights, and the naloxone kits were provided to the fire department at no cost as part of our partnership with North Bay Perry Sound Harm Reduction Program and the Ontario Naloxone Program. Our mutual aid training continues, and with McKellar Fire Department for our Tinkle Shuttle program, which now is complete because they challenged their test on previous Sunday. But it is going to continue on with Perry Sound Fire Department, mutual and reciprocal training between Perry Sound Fire and McDougall Fire.
Okay, thank you for your report. Any questions or comments? Council? No? Okay, guess it's, we know the opioid overdose problem Canada-wide. You'd like to hope that McDougall was immune from that, but we know we're not. So it's good that our firefighters have the training, and it's good that they're willing to participate in that as well. And we hope they never have to. Move on to the next item for fire protection. Report of the fire chief, monthly fire services for 2020. Mr. Leduc.
Your worship, thank you. You can, if you see the emergency run numbers in September, you can see it's very down. Things were very quiet in September with only one emergency call out. That also affects because there was only one number to run stats against and percentages, so it drove up our response time, and it drove up our distance times and things because it was only one event. But either way, it still falls into our normal procedures. And so, yeah, everything is on par. Just a very quiet month for us, which is appreciated, actually.
Thank you. Questions? Council? No? All right. Any matters arising under fire protection?
None, your worship.
Okay, thank you. Emergency management, outstanding item on our agenda for a few months now, COVID-19 emergency response. We're still in a declaration of emergency in McDougall. Seems prudent to stay with that at this point in time, given the increase province-wide and Canada-wide with the COVID-19 incidents. Any member of council have any comment or question on this item? No. You will notice because of this rise province-wide, even though we've been lucky in this area, that's why we've gone back to just having all the councillors other than myself come into the Zoom meeting process, just out of precaution. I'm not sure, probably the CAO was getting it to later on, but you've probably been copied too about a lot of the increased actions we're taking internally in the office as well in the day-to-day operations because of this, but we'll probably hear more about that a little bit later on. But I know you've been copied on those as well, so you understand what they are. Matters arising under emergency management. Okay. Recreation, any matters arising?
Your worship, just a few. So just to let council know that we're beginning our fall cleanup and fall switching to winter operations. Also, that Nobel Beach washroom facility will be shut down and closed next week following Thanksgiving, and getting ourselves prepared for winter.
Any ice at the MRC yet? No. Any other matters arising in recreation?
None.
Thank you. Public Works, report of the Public Works Manager, 2020-07 monthly report. Mr. Thompson.
Good evening, everyone. My report, the beginning of my report, the roads need study. We're working on our second round of traffic counts, so we're hoping for a draft report shortly. I'm going to say at least 3 weeks. So looking forward to that. Also, I know Brian mentioned the beach up at Nobel. we did finish the flex beam, and we put some new gates in. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to check it out, but I think it looks pretty sharp. Also, again, our 550 truck, I've been following up on our new vehicle. It's somewhere floating in between Orillia and Toronto, getting rigged up. So we do expect it before the snow. And within the next few weeks, we hope to get a good head start on Lake Forest Drive for spring operations.
Okay, and you had one landfill operations,
Say again, sorry.
and you had one other line there, landfill operations.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, everything at the landfill for operations is running good right now. There's the Packer. I think Tim touched on that earlier, but the Packers is in Sudbury, and they're currently working on it.
Mr. Hunt.
Mr. Thompson, can you just touch on that emergency repair on Bunny Trail for councils?
Yes, no problem. I have been working for the last month or so with CN Railway in regards to 5-foot steel culvert on the Bunny Trail. It meets right at the train tracks. It's badly damaged and badly rotten. It's starting to undermine underneath the culvert. So as we had in our meeting there today, I have reached out to Armtech and have had the culvert spec'd out, and I am currently working with CN in correspondence and trying to line up and get the culvert replaced. Approximate cost, Tim and I discussed in around $25,000 to $30,000 for full replacement.
Okay, Mr. Hunt.
So if I just touch on that too. It's actually imperative that we get this done because the culvert runs parallel with the tracks. So if the culverts fail with vibration, there's a pretty decent chance that the railway will fail. So I think what Nick's trying to do right now is see if CN can meet us with absorbing some of the costs on their end, because shutting the railway down for that culvert is extremely expensive. So there are other ways you can do it. You can negotiate with CN to slow the trains. If you slow the trains right down, I'm going by memory, but I think if you slow them right down to under 2 miles an hour, you can work within 10 or 12 feet of the tracks. So what Mr. Thompson is doing now is trying to negotiate. If CN can pick up all of their costs, then we only have the cost of the culvert. If CN decides they want to be difficult, we would have huge expenses for CN in this case. So right now it sounds like Nick has a good handle with the CN people he works with to maybe get them to absorb all their costs, and we'll just absorb our costs for the actual culvert.
Okay, Mr. Thompson.
Just to touch on my correspondence with CN, so far things have been going pretty good with them, with absorbing the cost of track protection time and stuff like that. They seem so far pretty cooperative with that. So just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council on any part of Mr. Thompson's report? Except one question on the landfill Packer. Do we have an estimated date for when it'll come back to us?
Not at this time for an estimate date to come back. Rob is working with them on a daily basis and keeping in touch with them. He's been corresponding with Tim and myself. They did pull the oil pan off yesterday, and they did find debris in the oil pan. So they're working on pulling the engine at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any other matters arising under Public Works?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Environment, Waste Management. Item 12.2, report of the Environmental Services Supervisor, 5-2020. Environmental Services General Update, Mr. Goldman.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to update you guys that we are still following all the COVID procedures, and all of our essential services are running, and we've made them a priority. That we don't anticipate any disruption. On the landfill leachate side, the facility has been running well, and with the fall season, we do prepare for higher rainfall, higher precipitation, and so we're prepared for that. On the Nobel water side, system's functioning well, and we're preparing for a system-wide audit and license permit renewal. This happens every 5 years, or 3 years on the audit and our full audit, and 5 years on the permit renewal. But also we have the fall flush of the hydrants coming up, and that should be completed later this month. And we've been keeping an eye on Crawford Septic, and the flows are within the seasonal normal. There's no cause for alarm at the moment.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Goldman? Report. Sounds all good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any matters arising under environment?
None.
Item 13, finance, accounts payable. Resolution moved by Councillor Malat, seconded by Councillor Constable, that the attached list of accounts payable for October 8, 2020 in the amount of $321,132.95 and payable for September 24, 2020 in the amount of $49,251.18 and October 8, 2020 in the amount of $42,259.05 be a payment. Discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. Item 13.2, 2021 Water Financial Plan Resolution, moved by Councillor Ryman, second by Councillor Gregory, that McDougall Council, as per the requirements of Ontario Reg 453/07 of the Safe Drinking Water Act 2002, approve the 2021 Water Financial Plan as presented to Council on the 7th day of October 2020. Comments? Any member of staff want to make comment on this? Mrs. Robinson?
Thank you very much. What I will do is I'll just briefly walk through council for this plan. This is part of OREG 453/07. We are required to do this every, I think it's about 5 years. Basically, it is giving council an idea of how financially viable our system is, as well as giving everyone an idea of what is coming forward for the years to come in terms of whether that be growth or major capital improvements and what we require for reserves and savings. The regulation does set out what they require in this financial plan. A lot of it does have to do with the financial operations of the system, including basically a balance sheet and income statement, the statement of cash flows and so on. Moving on to page 5 of the plan, which is the drinking water levels of service. This area is from our 2014 asset management plan and our 2013 asset management plan, and our asset management plan defined these levels of service. The one thing we have done is we've updated the performance measure section to the 2019 actual figures there. The levels of service will be slightly updated in 2022 when we have to update our asset management plan. However, this does meet the specs for the current OREG. The water system inventory on page 7 is as per our 2020 asset listing. So any new additions, including the Nobel water system looping, have been included in this asset inventory here. Of course, our water bylaw, 2011-53 is the bylaw which states how you apply for water service, what are the restriction, prohibitions, and enforcement regarding the water service. Of course, it all ties into asset management and where we see the future of our system going, what is the useful life remaining in our system. Currently, as per the 2013 asset management plan, 27% of water assets have a useful life of 75 to 100 years. We would still fall in that category because it was only a few years ago when this asset management plan was updated. 48% of the water assets have a useful life of 50 to 75 years, and 57% of the water assets are deemed to be in excellent condition compared to 43% being in good condition. At this time, when we do the update to the asset management plan for 2022, we don't foresee a lot of changes there. We do have a very new water system in comparison to some other cities and towns. So of course, there will be some changes in terms of the useful life, but it won't be significant. In terms of growth, any future water expansion projects are covered by either the developers or the owners of those lots. So there isn't currently any plans on the table to expand the water system at a cost directly to McDougall. So any growth, for instance, a new subdivision development, what would happen is the subdivision development would pay for the extension of the water system in terms of all of the curb stop fees and everything there. And then at that time, there would be a set period where the developer would then basically donate the asset to us at a fair market value. And we will see that in the financial statements going forward. Operation and maintenance, the day-to-day activities that we're required to do, and of course, our agreement with the town of Parry Sound to purchase the treated water. The preventative maintenance, again, that is definitely more of the environmental services forte there, but what are we required to do annually, and the inspection system, as well as the control and supervisory requirements over the SCADA. So the financial model and budget process is quickly outlined. It's very similar to our regular budget process for the entire municipality in terms of how we determine how to budget for the following year, how we control costs, and what financial requirements and section we're to follow, which is PSAB 3150. The revenue and rates, again, are set from the rate that we purchased the water from at the town of Parry Sound, as well as any upcoming requirements in terms of capital or reserves that we need to set aside for future expenditures. So the financial statements, page 11 shows the statement of operations, which is your typical income statement. So your revenue minus your expenses to see where you're at the bottom. The one thing to note here is 2021, we do hope to obtain the, you can see under revenue, one-time contribution to capital. That is the fair market value currently of the extension project for the development in Nobel. So that will hopefully be brought into the finances for the water operations in 2021. And going forward, the operating expenses, the projection there is typically around a 2.5% increase. For most of the expenses, the water supply costs for distribution, I actually obtained a draft copy of the proposal that Parry Sound is putting forward to their council. So those are draft figures, but they would suffice for an idea as to where they see their water system going. Thus, our costs would actually be increasing around the same rate. Page 12 outlines the statement of financial position, which is our balance sheet, our financial assets minus our financial liabilities to get to our net financial assets. Again, one of the things to note here is that we will soon finish paying for the water debenture. So residents will finish in 2022 paying for the water debenture if they had to borrow to have that water line go past their lot. And at the same time, we will have paid our debt to the province at the end of 2022 as well. The statement of cash flows shows our projected annual surplus or deficit. And then from there, it shows our repayments for any of our debt and where we're going in the future. Because we do have such a small water system, it is difficult to spread out some of those costs. So basically, we're always looking for different ways to help with savings or improve efficiencies, because we don't have a huge system or ratepayers that are on the system that we can smooth out those costs too. So cost per user, it's hard to determine really how viable a system is when you don't have 600 users on that system. So it is difficult to determine. However, the long-term viability of the system is still very well, especially considering our system is so new in terms of infrastructure. The last page is just this schedule of projected liabilities, which is just our long-term debt financed by the municipality. And that will be all finished in 2022. And so if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to take any financial questions. If they're technical questions, I'm sure Mr. Goldman would help me out with those.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? I'll call the question. I already had the resolution on the table. All those in favor? It's carried. Item 3 under finance from the Superintendent Commander, Municipal Policing Bureau, Phil Witten, the OPP Municipal Policing 2021 Annual Billing Statement. Mrs. Robinson, anything to draw our attention to there?
Not a whole lot to really draw our attention to. This levy is slightly lower than 2020 by about $1,100, or a 0.2% decrease. So it is nice that we aren't seeing those drastic increases as we had in years past. And other than that, I don't have anything else to draw your attention to.
Okay. Any questions from council? No. All right. Any matters arising under finance?
No.
Okay. I'd just like to make the comment based on the audit report earlier that we're in good financial shape. So thank you very much to you and your department for looking after us and our money, our taxpayers' money, doing that. It's good to see. I know even though we would expect our collection rate to increase somewhat, it hasn't increased all that much. I know it's only a part year into this situation, but it's good to see. But we're still, I think, worst case scenario in McDougall's history was we were probably up around almost 15%, I think, at one point in time. So we're still quite a ways off that at 8.5%. So that's good to see. I also noticed on that slide, maybe I should ask Mr. D'Angelo that, but some municipalities had such a high rate of that. I think some municipalities may have waived taxes, did they not, for a time frame? That may have been why some had such a large percentage of uncollected taxes.
So the slides actually would have been pertaining to 2019 and 2018 data, so prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, okay. Well, then there's no excuse for them then. I was trying to help them out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other matters arising? Finance? No. Administration, 2021 Committee Council Schedule Resolution. That the Council for the Corporation of Municipality of McDougall, moved by Councillor Millat, second by Councillor Constable, that Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of McDougall adopts the 2021 Committee Council Schedule attached as Schedule A to this resolution. I think this was the hybrid model that we were presented with that Council supported. Further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Item 14.2 from Danny Whalen, President of Phonom. Media release, Phonom's Board of Directors supports satellite internet access to bring improved services to Northern Ontario. Item 3 from Mac Bain, Executive Director, Phonom, draft resolution endorsing Starlink satellite system. Is that a request for us to, is that a Phonom resolution? Mrs. West?
Through your worship to council, this is a Phonom resolution that's been drafted for municipalities that would like to support it.
Any desire from council to bring this forward? The resolution, Councillor Constable? Okay, so we'll bring that forward to the next meeting. Item 4 from Graydon Smith, President of AMO. Feedback on the AMO OPP Detachment Board discussion paper. For information from Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Parkland Dedication, Development Charges and Community Benefits Charges Authority.
Sorry,
Mrs. West.
can we just back up?
Yep.
The AMO OPP Detachment Board discussion paper, that was a result from McDougall's initial resolution that agreed with Phonom and did not support DSABs running the OPP detachment boards. We had a lot of support. I know some resolutions were brought forward, but there was quite a number, and that was a result from McDougall's initial resolution.
Thank you for pointing that out. And the Parkland Dedication, Development Charges and Community Benefits Charges Authority. Any comment on that?
Through your worship to the rest of council, this is really the development charges and the community benefit charges really do not affect McDougall. It's for larger developments that we just don't see here.
Okay. Item 6 from Daryl Moffat, Forrest Pangra, the IceCap co-chairs. Thank you letter for allowing them to make their deputation they made to council. There were 2 requests that they had. One was to join the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Partners for Climate Protection Program and to join the IceCap partnership. I think council, after the deputation, sort of passed it back to staff just to bring us a report at a future meeting. So we'll leave this item till next meeting. Do we get that report? Doesn't have to necessarily be next meeting, but whichever meeting it comes forward.
Mrs. Robinson's.
Mrs. Robinson?
Thank you. I can provide an update with that. So we did just submit our annual reporting to the province for our energy usage. And we're currently in the process of updating our energy plan that was previously adopted, I believe is in 2014. So we are due to update that plan, and I'm currently working with staff to do so.
Okay. Thank you. From Victoria Thomas, Senior Environmental Officer, Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, possible blue-green algae in Harris Lake, McDougall, laboratory test results. There for information. Mrs. West.
Yes, Your Worship, just for information, the tests of that day showed that the results were undetectable, but it's just for that one moment in time. So just there for information.
Okay. Thank you. Matters arising under administration? No. Okay. Request for support. Wollaston Township requests that Municipal Elections Act establish rules to verify legitimate additions to the voters list. I'll just, as normal, look to council. If I see any support to bring this forward, then we'll do that. But if not, I'll keep moving down the list. Loyalist Township requests that Ministry of Transportation considers ferries to be part of a local transit system. Town of Amherstburg, AODA website compliance extension request. Once again, for the town of Amherstburg, request for consideration of amendments to Bill 108 re-Ontario Heritage Act. Municipality of McDougall, Town of Perry Sound, Supplemental Emergency Services Levy. Township of Macker, once again, the same basic request for support. I know our council received the information on this and a report from Mr. Thompson. I think at that point, council was satisfied. Matters arising under request for support. Seeing none, motions of which notice have been previously given. I'm not aware of any. Committee reports, Town of Prairie Sound EMS, August 18th agenda and minutes. North Bay Prairie Sound District Health Unit, gathering restrictions expand to all of Ontario. The health unit, harmful blue-green algae in Commander Lake. Also from the health unit, harmful blue-green algae in Lake Nosbonsing. From the health unit, blue-green algae in South Shore Lake of Lake Nipissing. From the health unit, reminding public to follow gathering sizes. And from the health unit, just a message to hunters and hunt camps to try and minimize the spread by distancing and following some of their protocols that they're suggesting. From the health unit, parenting campaign. Also from the health unit, removing gender from the COVID-19 cases page on the website. From the health unit, post-secondary students residing in district will be counted in the local COVID-19 case count. The health unit, busy group. Personnel Policy, Employer and Labor Relations Committee, Finance and Property Committee, and Board of Health meeting agendas. And finally, from the health unit, protect your loved ones, be careful what you share for information. Matters arising, committee reports. Councillor Ryman.
Thank you, Your Worship. If we could just back up to the request for levy. Where's this standing? Where's it standing right now?
Which item?
I'm sorry. It was the request for the levy from the EMS.
EMS?
Yes. I'm not. Are we supporting or what?
The EMS committee is an advisory committee only. Councillor Millard is a representative on that for ourselves, Whitestone, McKellar, and Carling. Perry Sound is in charge of it, and they can levy as they want to by law. So I think at this point in time, we received that information on it. And Mrs. Robinson, if you're still, yeah, I see you still on the screen there. Do you want to make a comment in terms of what our next step is in terms of that levy? In answer to Councillor Ryman.
Sure, I can do that. I did reach out to Mr. Thompson with the town of Perry Sound for additional background information to support the amount requested for that levy, which I then did send off to council in an email. Right now, that additional levy is subject to be paid unless council does want to support the resolution from Makar and Magnetawan. Otherwise, that levy is currently subject to be paid.
Councillor Ryman.
Thank you, Worship. The only question I guess I have is due to the fact that Magnetawan and Makar are not supporting. I believe that the levy was a percentage-based levy for the areas involved. Is that because the two townships are not supporting, does that increase each levy for other municipalities?
Pretty sure the answer is no, but Mrs. Robinson.
So the answer would be no. Basically what they're asking for is additional background information before they make their decision. However, the percentage based is based on the weighted assessment, and I don't see how they could not pay it at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any matters arising under committee reports? Okay. Item 18, report of the CAO. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you. Just to bring you up to speed on what's going on with the pool committee. The steering committee met today again to finalize a package to go to the pool committee. We did quite a bit of work on site selection. I think we're ready to go with that. We reviewed all the building options. We worked through the CAC, the community. That's a piece of work we did today. We went through what the community wanted, tried to put as many options as we could into this facility. Obviously, not all of them are going to go. We also kind of settled on the formation of an official board and how that would be laid out. We have had a lawyer giving us some advice on that there, so that information will be coming forward pretty soon as well. And the recommendations from the CAC, from the community committee. So that'll all come to the pool committee within the next week and a half. So we're finally getting to a point where people are going to have to either stand up and support it or voice how they're going to sit with this pool, whether they're in or out. We had a few other things happen today as well at the landfill. Not only the Packer is down, the Packer engine was pulled today and it has gone to our rebuilder. I called Rob at 5 o'clock just to confirm it. So the engine is at the rebuilders now. It is being redone. And as luck would have it, we have a few loader issues at the moment. And we're just working through those today and tomorrow as well. Nothing we can't handle. If we need something, we can rent it. There's lots of equipment available for what we need. The culvert on the CN tracks, I did give Mr. Thompson direction today to get a culvert ordered as quick as possible. So that is being done. And on the COVID update for staff and council, there are a few more items to go through. So I will send another update tomorrow, bringing everybody up to speed on what we're doing. And that's about where we are right now. Other than that, things in the office are quiet, really quiet. People seem to be, the people in the north seem to be a little more respectful of COVID than the people in the south are, that's for sure. So hopefully that continues and we can continue to operate with our doors open. I think we are probably the only municipality who operates with our doors open and have been basically from day one. So anyway, we are taking all the precautions we can possibly take for staff and the public. So that's it for me today.
Okay, thank you for that report. Any questions of Mr. Hunt on his report or otherwise? Councillor Malott?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in regards to the Packer, I know we were talking about some other repairs and painting. Are we going to do that at the same time?
John?
Yes, we are. It was due to go up there to be sandblasted and painted and the minor repairs done. So while the engine's out, that is being done at the same time. Like I said previously, a big part of this cost is moving that machine. It's not an easy machine to move around.
No. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Hunt? All right. I'll just take this opportunity because it was raised as part of Mr. Hunt's report to give my appreciation to all staff in terms of the effort that's been made to keep McDougall functioning during this time period. I think we've made adoptions to some of our procedures to make it easy while still keeping everyone safe. I think staff are making a stellar effort in terms of protecting each other and protecting the public in terms of what you do. These are trying times, but a lot of respects from the outside looking in, it doesn't seem like business has changed all that much, but I know it's almost like a duck swimming on the water where we're smooth on the surface, but paddling like a son of a gun underneath water level. And that's pretty much, I think, what I see going on right now. So just On behalf of council to staff, thank you very much for everything that you're doing in these trying times.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Gregory? No, unmute. There you go.
I'd just like to agree with what you said. I've had the opportunity to visit a couple of municipal offices the last few weeks, and they're all locked, and the signs on the doors are kind of ambiguous. And even if they come to an open door like we have, our receptionist can say, sorry, we're not really doing that today. And it's much nicer for the public to get that kind of a response. So I certainly appreciate McDougall. Thank you.
Thank you. General items and new business? No. Bylaws, none tonight. Tracking sheet, no items. Closed session, no items. Therefore, no ratification of matters from closed session. Confirmation bylaw. Moved by Councillor Ryman, second by Councillor Malat, that bylaw 2020-45 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the committee council meeting held on October 7, 2020, be introduced and read a first and second time. Discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Gregory, second by Councillor Constable, that bylaw 2020-45 be read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Final discussion. All those in favor? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Ryman, second by Councillor Gregory, that we do now adjourn at 8:05 p.m. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.